We got a new fight that's broken out between the Department of Justice, Pam Bondi, Attorney General, Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche, and the judges of the Eastern District of Virginia over an interpretation of Judge Currie's order, which fired Lindsey Halligan as the U.S. Attorney Prosecutor for the Eastern District of Virginia. There's no other way to interpret the order that was rendered 2 weeks ago on the 24th of November by Judge Currie. I have a copy of it right here, but that Lindsey Halligan is out of a job and the vacancy needs to be filled by the judges of the Eastern District of Virginia. But we're here 2 weeks later, and the Eastern District judges haven't gotten together to appoint a new prosecutor, and that left a gaping hole, a gaping loophole that the Department of Justice is trying to drive a tractor trailer through and argue that Lindsey Halligan still has her job. But federal judges look at filings with her name on it and scratch their head and said she was fired in an order. How could she possibly still be participating in decision-making and filing in court coming out of that office? And this against the backdrop of Alina Habba finally taking yes for an answer and resigning from her position as the District of New Jersey, the chief prosecutor for the state of New Jersey federally. I'm Michael Popok. You're on the MeidasTouch Network, and I'm Legal AF. Let's get down to what's going on. Couple of back-to-back decisions about a week apart. Lindsey Halligan fired by Judge Currie, who was presiding in there by designation, having found in particular that Lindsey Halligan was illegally appointed by Donald Trump under a Vacancy Reform Act and under any interpretation of constitutional law to the position as U.S. Attorney, which must have come as some slight relief for Lindsey Halligan, considering she's 8 years out of law school with no federal court experience, let alone ever being a prosecutor. Okay, and off went the James Comey and the Letitia James indictment with it. A week later, Alina Habba gets fired by the Third Circuit Court of Appeals for similar but not exactly identical reasons. Now, it looks like the Department of Justice, particularly Donald Trump, Pam Bondi, and Todd Blanche, are still fighting to keep Lindsey Halligan in her spot while they're going around her to re-indict Letitia James for mortgage fraud and baby James Comey for perjury or something else, using other people in the office, people that they're already using, including, for instance, her deputy, her first assistant, who's now joined that office. And so there's a battle between the federal judges who say, Judge Currie ruled, you're out of a job, and why is your name still on pleadings and court filings as being the U.S. attorney when you're not? The judges are challenging U.S. attorneys in their courtroom on unrelated cases, saying, why is Lindsey Halligan's name here? Including Judge Nachmanoff, who's the judge presiding over the Comey indictment. I'll go over that with you. And then you've got Bondi and Blanche running interference, attacking the Eastern District of Virginia judges, who are ultimately going to pick her replacement, claiming that they're being biased and unfair against Lindsey Halligan. While Alina Habba got kicked upstairs to take a job to be the special advisor to Pam Bondi. Talk about blind leading the blind, and apologies to the blind, to be a special advisor about U.S. attorneys. What is going on? The problem is, it is a slight problem. It has to do with Judge Currie's order. Her order is a little bit slightly vague at the moment when it needed to be precise. Let me explain it to you. When she concluded in her ordered and adjudged, number one, the appointment of Ms. Halligan as interim U.S. attorney violated Section 546 and the appointment clause of the U.S. Constitution. Okay, that's a finding of fact. That's a conclusion of law. She then says all actions flowing from the defective appointment, including the indictment, are an unlawful exercise of executive power and are set aside. Okay, conclusion of law and remedy. The Attorney General's attempts to ratify her actions were ineffective and set aside. Conclusions of law and a remedy. I understand that. Then she says in paragraph 7, the power to appoint an interim U.S. attorney for the Eastern District of Virginia during the current vacancy, pretty clear, lies with the district court until a U.S. attorney is nominated by the president, confirmed by the Senate. Not much of a loophole. 7 could have been a little bit more precise. She could have said, there is now officially a vacancy. Ms. Halligan, you're out of a job. I don't think there's any other way to read the preceding 6 paragraphs than exactly what I just said. But what the Department of Justice is arguing and the Office of Legal Counsel for Donald Trump is that what's a little bit unclear, a little bit ambiguous. She says there's a vacancy. She says Halligan was illegally appointed and her appointment violated the statute and the Constitution, and says the vacancy needs to be filled by the judges. But even the judges didn't move forward to fill the vacancy. See, what if I had written it, or I would move for clarification if I were Comey's lawyers, if I cared, and Letitia James's lawyers, and I would say, here's a proposed amended order, which says there's now a vacancy created because of the unconstitutional appointment and illegal appointment of Lindsey Halligan. She is barred from continuing to operate as the U.S. Attorney. I preclude her, I block her, I enjoin her. There is now a vacancy. That vacancy can only be filled by the judges. Because she didn't put that, get out of your chair, I'm blocking you from reporting to work part, the Trump administration is like, she can still sign pleadings, which is pissing off the judges. For instance, there's reporting that Judge Nachmanoff, during a hearing about an immigration case having nothing to do with Comey or Letitia James, got into a back and forth with the lawyer, Nick Patterson, who's an assistant U.S. attorney, I think a legitimate one, in the Eastern District, about why is Lindsey Halligan's name still on these court filings, given Judge Currie's order? Why? He says, those were the instructions we were given. We were supposed to put Robert McBride, who's the number 2 in the office now. He's a semi-retired lawyer brought in from Kentucky to babysit, I guess, the office. And we're supposed to put Todd Blanche's name. Why? Why is Lindsey Halligan's name there as interim U.S. attorney? I don't really have any explanation for that, Your Honor. So Nachmanoff struck it from the pleading and instructed the office, don't file anything in his courtroom that still has Lindsey Halligan's name on it. Other magistrate judges are doing the same thing. And Nachmanoff got into it with the lawyer. Like, listen, this is not an order that only relates to Letitia James and Miss James's and Mr. Comey's indictment. This has to do with the entire district. She's out of a job. Are you feeling sluggish? Bloated? Not like yourself? Life bombards us with silent threats, processed foods, artificial light, and modern stressors that disrupt your gut, drain your energy, and weaken your immune health. Your body isn't broken. It just needs the right inputs. That's where Armra Colostrum comes in. It's nature's original blueprint for health, packed with over 400 bioactive nutrients that fortify gut health, fuel fitness recovery, and strengthen immune health, supporting your best performance every day. I love Armra. I've been using it myself. I'm on it right now, and I can tell you it's made a real difference. I feel more energized, less bloated, and just sharper throughout the day. It's not just another supplement. It's a bioactive whole food, pure, potent, natural, and clean, sustainably sourced with a calf-first commitment. Take back control of your health. We've worked out a special offer for my audience. Receive 30% off your first subscription order. Go to armra.com/legalaf or enter legalaf to get 30% off your first subscription order. That's armra.com/legalaf. Support your gut. Strengthen your immune health. Feel the difference with Armra Colostrum. I love when the assistant U.S. attorney, Mr. Patterson, looked at the judge and said, I don't have any reasoning. No reasoning was provided by Department of Justice in Washington. So now you had to have Pam Bondi and Todd Blanche leap into action. And here's what they posted on X. I guess this is supposed to be a love letter to the judges of the Eastern District. A statement from Pam Bondi and Todd Blanche. Certain district court and magistrate judges in the Eastern District of Virginia are engaging in an unconscionable campaign of bias and hostility against U.S. Attorney Lindsey Halligan. Stop right there. As of the date of this posting, which was like yesterday, Lindsey Halligan is not the U.S. Attorney. That would be like me making a posting that says, from the desk of the President of the United States, Michael Popok. Just because I got some software to print the stationery doesn't mean that I am that. Just like Pete Hegseth isn't the Secretary of War. Lindsey and our attorneys are simply doing their jobs. Well, she's out of a job. There's no job for her to do. The fact that you're admitting you're violating the order of Judge Currie. If I was Letitia James and James Comey, or if I was Judge Currie having seen this, I would call them in for contempt. Plain and simple, and issue a slightly revised order to be a little bit more precise at that moment of blocking Lindsey Halligan from showing up to work. They do not deserve to have their reputations questioned in court for ethically advocating on behalf of their client. It's legitimate for Judge Nachmanoff to say to the assistant U.S. attorney, "What's the guidance that you were given?" No guidance was presented. Okay. We will continue fighting for public safety in courtrooms across the country. Public safety, that's what Letitia James's mortgage fraud case is about. That's what James Comey's perjury case is about, public safety. And we will not be deterred by rogue judges all the judges are rogue, who failed to live up to their obligations of impartiality because of their own political views. What are you effing talking about? Most of these judges on the Eastern District of Virginia, it's split, it's bipartisan. The American people deserve nothing less. Written by the most corrupt head of the Department of Justice in our history. So what's going to happen next? I think they're going to stop writing Lindsey Halligan's name on things. I don't see them appealing anytime soon to save Lindsey Halligan's job, And I think one of the parties, either James Comey or Letitia James, are going to have to run to court, or Judge Currie's going to have to issue on her own, because she reads, issue on her own an amended order barring her from the office, and also somebody should point out this particular posting that I just read out loud as grounds for contempt of court. When you don't follow orders you don't like, writing a social media post to attack the judge and call them rogue is not acceptable as an officer of the court, which both of them are. They have sworn an allegiance to be true and faithful and candid officers of the court. And just because they're doing it in social media doesn't make it okay or all right or not in contempt or contumacious conduct. So here's what I think will happen and should happen. There's going to be an amendment by Judge Currie on her own or on a request to add another line or two to her order to make it clear that she blocks Lindsey Halligan. Lindsey Halligan is not to put her name on pleadings. Lindsey Halligan is precluded from serving in any capacity or impersonating, let's call it for what it is, impersonating the U.S. attorney from now until there is a reversal of her order. They want to appeal, then go appeal. In the meantime, they got a federal order to abide by, subject to contempt. I think that happens. I think that the judges of the Eastern District of Virginia, one of them's got to be a Legal AF or MeidasTouch fan, hold your meeting and appoint somebody new and have them show up for the keys. That would help. That would go a long way also, and have them start running that office. I think that's got to happen this week as well. We'll follow it right here on MeidasTouch and Legal AF. Hit the subscribe button here. Hit the subscribe button over on Legal AF YouTube. Help us get to 1 million subscribers before the next couple of weeks. We're going to do it with your help. And the bigger we are, the more we are empowered and emboldened for 2026. And I appreciate everything that you guys do for us. Till my next report, I'm Michael Popok. Can't get your fill of Legal AF? Me neither. That's why we formed the Legal AF Substack. Every time we mention something in a hot take, whether it's a court filing or a oral argument, come over to the Substack. You'll find the court filing and the oral argument there, including a daily roundup that I do called, wait for it, Morning AF. What else? All the other contributors from Legal AF are there as well. We got some new reporting. We got interviews. We got ad-free versions of the podcast and hot takes. Where? Legal AF on Substack. Come over now to free subscribe.